welcome. Thank you for joining us today. Our Milwaukee Urban Ag Network All Season Growing webinar. I'm Christine, joined by colleague Esther. She's waving. We have a lot of amazing information to go through today, so we encourage you to stay muted, but please use the chat function. And as you settle in, we would love to get to know you a little bit. So please say hello in the chat. You can share where you're calling in from and what you're excited to learn about today from our presenters, Michelle and Morgan at LarryVille Gardens. One thing that I did want to point out for tech and language assistance, language access is really critical to the work that we do together on our farms and in communities. So if you or a producer you work with ever need or would benefit from language support or interpretation services on these calls or in-person events, just let us know. We also asked with your registration to be able to provide language support anytime you need it. And in addition, like I mentioned, just to make sure we can hear our experts' presentation, we will keep folks muted until the end, where we will address questions from the group. And in lieu of that, we encourage you to use the chat function. So throughout the day, throw in questions, comments, build community. Also, you can recognize any of us as facilitators using the chat. We'll often try to put a little emoji at the front so you can find us. Let us know if you have any questions as we go forward.
Try again with where you were. Winnie.
I may or may.
Christine, you're muted now.
Oh no, thank you. Where did I get cut off? I'm just letting you know that we are here to encourage community conversations and building trust. We ask you all to hold our community guidelines in this space, put relationships first, practice trust and respect each other's privacy, create space for multiple truths and norms, notice power dynamics or step up and step back, and also just stay grounded in our common goals. Esther, I would love, do you want to introduce the Milwaukee Urban Ag Network or?
Sure. Hey everyone, happy to have you all today here. It's a wonderful webinar that we are looking forward to listening from Michelle and Morgan. And so I want to first of all thank them for being a resource persons today. The Milwaukee Urban Ag Network has been in operation for the past 3 years, and we talk about the different facets of urban agriculture as of today. How do you extend your growing season? And we are trying to provide more information. We're trying to create some notes for you all, and you can also see the video recording at the end when we send out a newsletter. But we also talk a lot about soil health, how to regenerate your soil health, and how you can keep it flush with nutrients for it to grow for a longer season and for generations to come, how you can maintain that. So we talk a lot about that. We also have a professional networking of organizations and professionals in the Milwaukee area on a one-on-one. And also we are having a couple of sessions coming up. One is the in-person all seasons growing workshop in the Michelle's farm coming up in October. Then in November, we want to have a community listening session where we want to hear about what are your thoughts, what do you want to learn for next year, and then followed by a professional networking in December. We'll send out information about all that to you all in your newsletter, and I hope to meet you all again and keep connected. Thank you, Christine.
Thanks. Yeah, so again, a reminder to use the chat. We did want to check in with you all with a quick poll to see kind of what experiences you're coming into the room with to help our presenters learn a little bit about you. So I just launched that. If you're able to use this poll, we wanted to check in what level of farming or agricultural experience you're attending this meeting with. So curious or beginning or no experience. Some emerging farmers, building, maybe you're on a farm or working on a farm with a little bit more years under your belt and want to scale up, and then seasoned farmers, lots of seasons behind you, and potentially could even share knowledge with the folks on the call. I'll give you a couple more minutes. Always, again, feel free to use the chat. And then there's a second question we're asking what we're hoping to dig into in our in-person event on October 9th, and also during this conversation today. Okay, as you finish up wrapping in this poll, I want to introduce our presenters from LarryVille Gardens, located in Burlington, Wisconsin, which is a certified naturally grown farm and farm stand. Michelle Cannon, wave hello, owner and operator, is not just growing food, but food that tastes magnificent and provides maximum nutritional value to our families and communities. Michelle also is a soil farmer and knows how important it is the food that we feed ourselves. We also have to feed the soil. They're going to discuss today how they manage and sell food 12 months of the year on just 5 acres. And this will introduce their farm goals, their infrastructure needs, labor, and market approaches. Morgan, say hello, is LarryVille's farm business manager. Morgan left the corporate office world 5 years ago to pursue her understanding of food and nutrition. It led her to LarryVille in 2020, where facing the collapse of traditional farmer markets, they began to, or did launch their on-site farm store to help support farmers and eaters. In 2021, Morgan also launched her itty bitty learning farm in Burlington and outreach to her community to feed and ignite curiosity and conversations. Morgan graduated from Madison's College of Artisanal Modern Meat Butchery program and is part of the board of directors for Meat Smith Co-op, which is a butcher and farmer-led meat processing cooperative in Southwest Wisconsin. All right, so I'm going to share the results of our poll. Michelle and Morgan, we've got 13% of very curious, no experience farmers on the call. About 45% are beginning or emerging farmers. A quarter are building and ready to scale up. And 17% of the folks on the call are seasoned farmers with lots of experience. They're really excited about the specialty crop techniques for food production. About half said that responded to that. A quarter are interested in infrastructure and planning for new markets. More than half are curious about tools on small acreages. And then we've got opportunity to dig into some other curiosities of the group. All right, well, I will pass the presentation to our hosts, and please, again, use the chat with questions as they arise. Go ahead, Michelle and Morgan. And you are muted, friends.
Here we go.
All right, we can hear you. Go ahead.
All right. Good. I'm really happy that the audience is mixed and diverse, because honestly, we need to pull from all of those different farm styles and forms in order to start to meet the demand. Because what we know is, and the reason we're educating people, is that there is a demand for food, for local food, for healthy food in our area that honestly is not being met. There is a good deal of organic farmers out there. There are not a good deal of organic farmers growing enough season extension to make it. So I'm in a winter farmers market in Oak Creek, and they have, for the last 3 years, they've had meat for a grower. We're working on one other one. I'm not sure what they're gonna have, but there's one other grower that's gonna be there. I don't know if it's just storage crops. I haven't met that person yet, but there is a need. There's a market, a lot of different markets. So I'm gonna do an intro on me. Morgan came to me about 5 years ago with COVID. COVID came and Morgan came. I don't know what that says, but it was funny. I started growing in 2008 with my first farmer's market. I had never even been at a farmer's market before. I had never walked in one, so I went in blind, but I did fine and I liked it. In 2010, though, I started getting my curiosity piqued about the winter growing, mainly because I honestly needed income all year round and I wanted to quit my job. And so I was approached by Deb Deacon at a market closer to Milwaukee. She said that I would be great for the Milwaukee Winter Farmers Market. And I'm like, whoa, baby, I'm not ready for that. I don't have any infrastructure. So when she said she wanted me and I knew what could be done, I went out of my way to find a way to learn more about that, number one, and to get the infrastructure in place. I ended up getting loans from 2 different friends because all the banks turned me down. And I bought a movable high tunnel from Four Season Tools. And that was awesome. And I had that until 2010. And when the 2010 came, I lost that high tunnel to a storm that just literally aimed at me and took me down. And that, I put a thing in there so it would stay there. That was when I got this greenhouse here. So that greenhouse was literally picked up and moved 15 feet over the top of a low tunnel. It got itself put into a whole nother position and we had to take it down and put up a new one. This is the new one. It happens to be a gutter connected double spay tunnel. But I would not suggest anybody go this route. And I could give you reasons why right now I prefer to keep on moving so I can get through all this material. The 2-bay tunnel has doubled my space almost and given me a little more ways to creatively fill this, and it's requiring me to heat it. So because I'm required to heat it, I can do a few more things. Not everybody needs to heat their high tunnel to grow in winter. We will talk about that as well. I used Elliot Coleman's book almost exclusively. I have found a few things above and beyond Elliot Coleman's book, but honestly, if you want to be able to study something for a long time, get any of Elliot Coleman's winter farmer handbooks and just go through them page by page and you'll learn about all the different crops you can do. Honestly, they're invaluable. I still have mine all dog-eared and tabbed up. So do that. I have also used many other people along the way. So Tom Stearns from High Mowing honestly just gave me the push I needed at the end in one of his programs. And honestly, I've been blown away by the need and the challenge that it is to grow all winter long. So 2010, we put up my other tunnel. 2020, we put up this tunnel. Since then, we have fine-tuned what we need to do to get the crops in here and out of here. And that's kind of the meat of this presentation. I have a very low-tech recycled tunnel over there. Morgan's going to try to show you. It has spinach in it only because there is no heat in there. There is no fanciness in there. And we put spinach in there all winter long, and spinach loves it in there. It does not need any more help than just good soil, and that's what it can get in there. So that one is constantly in spinach. If you have just a low-tech high tunnel and you want to grow all winter long and have income from it all winter long, being able to fill a high tunnel with just spinach, honestly, is one of the biggest assets you have, because spinach is always in demand. You can harvest spinach every day of the week or every week of the year. And you can pull in some income for yourself just from spinach. So that's one of that things. I have 2 tunnels, that one and this one. I don't have enough room to grow everything I need to grow side by side. What I need to do is get some stuff in, take some stuff out, and get some stuff in and take some stuff out. And that's how this is gonna go for you. I'm gonna ask you a question, and you're all here, so I'm wondering why you want to torture yourself all winter long. I've asked myself that all few times. What are you gaining by growing in the winter time? So I have a list. I'll send it to you if you want
To
it.
the top 10?
It's pretty close to the top 10. So you get winter income, which is hard to come by if you're a farmer in Wisconsin. Winter income. I do not want a second job. This gives me a second job. I get to do this all winter long. The vegetable quality out of winter is phenomenal. Carrots in winter taste 10 times better than even the best summer carrot or spring carrot or fall carrot. It's just an amazingly better thing. I will tell you later, I'm going big in carrot because they are delicious and I have a huge demand for carrots. Winter carrots, not even starting to harvest this until November 1st. But we'll talk about those dates. So quality and flavor, there's less disease. There's less insect pressure. There's less weeds. If you do it right and you time it right, and you get everything up to that teenage life, so a plant is a baby and then it's a toddler and then it's a teenager and then it's an adult. You want to get it past that teenage years where it can actually support itself before winter hits and the daylight gets too low. So if you can do that, the flavor and the quality of those vegetables is phenomenal. You need a few things, but we'll talk about it. Labor is much lighter. Again, you don't have insects. I'm not spraying in here in the wintertime. I am barely weeding in the wintertime. We kind of weed the spinach as we pick the spinach. So if you see something, you get it out. So weeding is much less, and so labor is lighter. I don't even start work until close to 10 o'clock in the wintertime. So in the wintertime, you get a nice long coffee break before you can even go outside, because that tunnel over there is not heated and the sun has to hit it and it has to.
Oh, you're muted, Michelle, sorry. Morgan, can you please unmute Michelle? We're still muted.
Sorry, it's hard in the orientation screen that I'm at here to find that mute and unmute button. I apologize. Go ahead. Nice long coffee break.
Yeah, that's where we lost you. Thank you.
Is that where you lost me? So yeah, you can drink a whole pot of coffee before 10 o'clock. Then you come out and work. So those tunnels that are unheated freeze solid at night. That spinach has no problem freezing solid every night. In the morning, the sun comes up. The sun is what heats that tunnel up. It takes a little while for that to not only heat up, but then thaw out the plants. Then you go in there once the plants have thawed out and you pick away. You cover it back up again. We use low covers in there, just like Elliot. Don't worry about it. You don't have to move it. Just like Elliot Coleman, we put low tunnels inside the high tunnels over the spinach. It just gives it a little bit of an extra layer so that you can pull that low cover off, and everybody under there is a couple degrees warmer than if they didn't have that on. So starting time is later. Quitting time is earlier. We quit at 2. I have a 4-hour day all winter long. We start at 10, we quit at 2, because at 2, the sun gets low enough that those tunnels all start to cool off, okay? Customer loyalty, you will build if you have their food that they like all year round. So your customers right now in the summertime can maintain, they're seeing you and eating your food all winter long. Even if it's only a few things, you can feed people all winter long. Market share, again, I mentioned that before. There are not a lot of people doing this. There is demand for it. We have demand from schools. Schools can't find winter veg either. CSAs for a winter share. You could do CSAs. Restaurants, always looking for winter food. Farm to table restaurants. Winter farmers market. There are a few everywhere. Find one. You will be amazed. Farm stands, yours, somebody else's, are all looking for the winter food. And then smaller places. If you're not really big, if you haven't sized up or scaled up to some larger greenhouse, coffee houses, butcher shops. What else did I think of the other day? there are all kinds of small place restaurants. I have a restaurant that they do takeouts, but they have bags of my stuff in it in a refrigerated cooler. And so some of my stuff gets sold to somebody who's coming for a meal. So all of that kind of stuff can be a place for even a small grower to sell all year round. Especially again, if you're smaller, if you're bigger and you can scale up, then those farmers markets are for you, especially the bigger ones. The other thing is you could just stay in better shape. You're going to stay in farm shape all winter long, just because you're going to be up and down doing what you need to do on a regular basis. And your soils, the next best thing is you're staying in shape, but your soils are staying in shape. One of the worst things you can do with the expensive high tunnel ground is to just let it disappear in the wintertime and not think about it. It needs water. It needs roots. It needs to be cared for. It needs you walking around and seeing what's wrong and what's not wrong. So your soil will stay much more alive and healthy if you're growing in it, if you're weeding it. Oh man, leaving the weeds for the whole winter, I don't even want to think about that. So that's why, and all the reasons that I have listed for doing this. What you need to think about is your infrastructure. So your things are all different than my things. Some people just have one high tunnel, it's only this big. What can you do with that? Does it need to be strengthened a little bit to make it to winter with veg in it, with you being able to get in and out of it? So getting in and out of a winter tunnel on a snow day can be a challenge. So do you need to strengthen doors? Do you need to strengthen sidewalls? Think about what you might need to do before you need to do it. You need water available to you. There are ways to get water into a high tunnel in that 4-hour picture frame. So I used to do that. I would pull the hose from the house out to the high tunnel. I would water for 4 hours. Then I roll that sucker up and get it back in the house so that it doesn't freeze on you. Get my tunnels, cut my little low tunnels back covered up and be out of my way. So then I gave my tunnel water. Now you don't need to do that as often in the wintertime. It needs much less water. That should be on my list of pros. It needs much less water in the winter. In general, I water about once a month in the wintertime. Right now, getting carrots ready and spinach ready, I'm watering 2-3 times a week. But in the wintertime, that will not be the case. In fact, you can't water that much to get away with it.
Hold on a second. You got to back up again.
What do you do again?
It just keeps muting.
She didn't even touch it, just so you know.
I didn't touch it.
You're gonna maybe have to take it out of there. Maybe that thing is squeezing something it shouldn't.
We can hear you still. I think it was
Okay.
just an interruption from a listener.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm like, I swear I didn't touch it.
Carry on.
Okay.
All
So
right. So what
watering.
needs to be strengthened? You do need to have water available to you. Find a way to do it. You don't need heat. If you need to do more than just spinach and leeks, which are the two really hardy things, and if you're not worried about losing something, so if you have one row of kale in here and you hit a polar vortex and things start dying, it's not going to hurt your bottom line that much to lose the kale. You won't lose the spinach, you won't lose the leeks, but it won't hurt your bottom line if you do lose something else. So if you're aware of what could happen, you can plant it, harvest until you can't anymore, and then let it go, get something else in. Do you need soil improvement? You may need soil improvement. Winter can help with that, but you just need to pay attention to soil, and paying attention to it all year round just helps you know your soil better. It does require timing. We will talk about timing. Timing is very specific. You don't have a lot of leeway in the timings for this stuff. You do need a way or a place where you can pack this out. So if you pick 60 pounds of spinach out of your greenhouse, you need a way in the wintertime to clean that all, bag that all, and store all that, okay? It does take more of a bit of an infrastructure that way. If you're already in a farm that's working this, you probably can do it, but you may need heat. You may need heat or something to allow you to work efficiently with very, very cold water. All right, so that's it. I used to have a wood burner in my pack shed, and we would turn that thing on, and it was much easier to be in the cold water with a heat source than it is in the cold water without a heat source. All right, so how do I do this with just these two spaces? There are trade-offs, but they're all doable trade-offs. There's things that gotta go out before you would necessarily think they gotta go out, and things that come in before you think they should have to come in. So I have really big major crops that make me most of my money. One is heirloom tomatoes. One is those winter carrots. Fall is potatoes, and spring is all the greens and things that are coming out of the field, and as much as I can get from out of here. Spring is my hardest time to have a real good crop of anything and be able to make money in spring. Spring is when I'm transferring from a crop of carrots into a crop of tomatoes. And that leaves me a little short. That's my major downfall. I'll take interesting ideas on that. So to get your summer tomatoes in the ground on time, you need soil available pretty much starting in March. I have not planted in here before April 1st, but I do start my tomatoes in my basement under lights on March 1st. They get 4 weeks in a flat. We use nice big flats for them, but my flats have, I think, 32 spaces in them, so I can get as big of a root ball on my tomatoes as possible. But I only give them 4 weeks in the flats before I attempt to get them out here. I watch the weather closely before I get them out here. They don't come out in hard and off really much at all. They'll come out for maybe a day or two under cover. We'll put a low tunnel over them, and we do have to heat slightly in here for them, depending on the weather. I'm watching the weather. I'm watching the lows. We got to keep those tomatoes at 50 at the lowest. And so keeping them at 50 means that they're not going to go downhill. In general, potting mix is already starting to deplete and they're already starting to lose some of their vigor. So I try to get them in the ground as quickly as possible at that 4 week mark. This almost always, it ends up being a 5 week mark when my tomatoes are already getting leggy and I'm already unhappy that I had to do that. But I'm hoping this year that we do it a little bit better. But that's the timing on tomatoes. March 1st, sow your seeds inside. Give yourself a few extra. April 1st, we aim to transplant into the high tunnel, and that means everything that's going into that's in tomato rows has to be out, and that's generally going to be carrots or that little tiny thing we have in between there, which we also will talk about. So tomatoes have to get clear soil, number one. Number two, we do need to fertilize for tomatoes. So we prep the soil for tomatoes like we prep the soil for every other thing on this farm, and it gets gypsum, and it gets seed meals, and it gets kelp, and generally azomite. That goes on the ground. We broad fork, we till if we think we need to, otherwise we just rake it in. Each one of our tomatoes gets a little hole dug for it, as deep as it needs to be for that particular tomato plant. We use that that soil that we just took out of that hole. We put that back in, and then we water them, and we water them deep with hopefully warm water. Okay, we want to keep these guys warm. The water in the hose, if the hose is in your greenhouse spread out, especially if you have a dark hose, sun's going to warm that water for you as you need it. But giving those tomatoes some warm water is super important. So having heat, having warm water, watch the lows. We cover them once they're in the ground with row cover, and we water them. Drip is really, really important. Once you get tomatoes in a greenhouse, I use drip, usually 2 lines of drip on each side of the tomatoes. And we get them as much water in their small stage as they need, and we keep them warm. In the daytime, we uncover those tunnels, and the nighttime, as soon as we get to that 2 o'clock mark, we're covering them back up again. Does that make sense?
So the point of the tomatoes is they go in March.
They go in on April 1st.
Okay.
They go in the ground out here on April 1st.
And when are we harvesting?
Well, that's after we keep them alive. Okay. So we harvest if we keep them alive. This time of year, it's not a foregone conclusion that they're going to stay alive. So keeping that temperature up enough for tomatoes. We will get our harvest of tomatoes starting in June. We will start taking ripe tomatoes out in June. The row covers, the little bit of heat that we use, uncover during the day, keep them well watered. Drip is very helpful. Fertility will make your season. Make sure you give them all that they need for fertility. You know your soil. You know what you need to add. That's when you give it. You give it to get it. Give the fertilizer to get the product. We start in June harvesting tomatoes from that April 1st planting. My plants almost always look perfect, super healthy and happy, much happier than they were in the potting mix, okay? I've seen it go the other way for some growers. They take them out of the pot, put them in the ground, and they go downhill. I always want my tomatoes to go uphill the minute they get into the ground. That's going to give you a lot of helpful information.
That gets you early into market.
That gets you early into market. As soon as those tomatoes start coloring, I start shutting down the water. Water will help you, but I lower my water input a lot once my tomatoes start to ripen, and that gives me a better flavor. It condenses that flavor in that tomato. We start harvesting, we get a good 6 weeks of heirloom tomato harvest. If you're growing hybrid tomatoes, you're going to get a lot more tomatoes than I get with heirlooms. Hybrids make huge amounts of tomatoes compared to my heirlooms, and that's just a fact. I do the heirlooms because I love them, but you can do anything you want. We will need to get these tomatoes out of the ground, believe it or not, on August 1st, or even before. This year we got them out the last week of July. The reason being is that's a lot of work to take tomatoes out of the ground, off of these trellises, get rid of them, harvest all the tomatoes off of them, including anything that might ripen in a box inside. All those go inside, and we have a stock of tomatoes in there to cull from on a weekly basis to get to market. So we do have tomatoes after we pull all these out. As soon as we pull these out, we refit the soil. That means everybody gets all that fertilizer. It's going to be used for carrots. August 1st, August 2nd, we need to plant carrots. So as soon as we get the tomatoes out, we start refitting these rows. And the one addition for carrots is peat moss. And I'm probably a little sulfur. I tend to be really sweet here. I'm not sure about you guys. My soil needs a little acidity to grow a good carrot. Peat moss and a little sulfur lately has been helping me to get these carrots doing what they need to do. And to do it quick enough. So we seed the carrots with the 6-row pinpoint seeder. Johnny's has them. You can do the 4-row. We end up doing 6 to 12 rows across our 30-inch rows. It depends on which row. Some of them are a little wider than others. And then we keep them nice and moist until they grow. But those tomatoes in the meantime are in the shed and they're ripening slowly, and we're continuing to sell them. The good thing about the tomato season here, I say it's good. It is short, but not as short as it looks. It allows me to get something else into the ground on time so I can have carrots in November. I need carrots November 1st when the winter market starts. I better have carrots or they're going to pitchfork me. So the tomatoes are in there. But everybody else's tomatoes come on August 1st. Every outdoor tomato, every backyard gardener, every grower who's using a high tunnel but doesn't get them in early is going to have tomatoes in August. I don't need my tomatoes in August. I give over that market share to the people that have it, and I bring what I have that's ripened in boxes, or if I get a second planting in on June 1st, that's another way to mitigate being without tomatoes. Okay?
We got 20 minutes.
20 minutes.
Roughly.
How did I do that just on tomatoes? Okay, so that's the tomato story. I will answer questions. If you need these informations, we will. When we get the tomatoes out of the ground, broad fork, all those fertilizers, although I should say, I've almost gone through the carrot one too. So once we get those tomatoes out, again, it's all of that stuff that my inputs, a broad fork and a tillage. We till deep for carrots. The peat moss keeps the soil soft and acidifies it. Carrot seed goes down, water, 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 weed, weed, weed. You got to weed your carrots. You got to make sure you thin them if you've got your seeder planting a little too thickly. And then we see the Napoli pelleted carrot seed. That's what I grow. Big, super, super, super sweet carrots. And we harvest those starting November 1st. I'm going faster than you think. The harvest of the carrots, however, will continue out of here until either one, I run out of carrots because they bought them all, or it gets too cold. So if we end up getting a polar vortex or something and it gets really, really cold, you can frost and freeze the top of your carrots. If I see that kind of thing come in, I have heat in here. I'm not too worried about it in here, but you guys, if you see that kind of cold coming, going through and harvesting all of your carrots, washing them and getting them in refrigeration so they're safe, that's the route to take. If I see them getting into February and starting to bolt, which means they get the white roots on their bottoms, they're losing quality, then I get them out. Anybody with the white roots, you can't sell, but anybody else. So if you start seeing that happening on a regular basis, think about getting all the carrots out, refrigerating them. They won't lose quality like that. They will lose quality in the ground. So we harvest out of the ground until we can't anymore. Okay, does it make sense? As these carrots that we have in here right now, I'll go through. Oh, the other thing, this is just a tip. This is a tip that it's free. Start your plantings on the north wall. Okay? Because the north wall gets the least amount of sunshine all winter long. The north wall needs to produce first, and you need to get them out of the north wall. It's going to be the coldest wall. It's going to be the least amount of sun. Get them guys growing in the north side first. I do it with the spinach and I do it with the carrots. Free tip for me. Anyhow, as we start clearing this row out, we should be replanting it almost immediately. Once a row is empty, you can refit that easily with a rake and a little fertilizer and throw something down that's very quick. Think about your time frame. You have from whenever you finish that row, let's say we finish this row on November 15th. Got a lot of time on November 15th to put baby bok choys in, to put arugula in, to put any baby greens in. Baby kale could go in, baby chard could grow in. All that kind of greens that grow really quick, even on low lights, that's what you put in. If that row over there, that's my last row, I take out in February, then in February, look at replanting other things. You got a bigger set of plants you can plant in February, because in February, you're going past your 10-hour of daylight time. And you can put in a few more things. You're past the spring equinox and you're going to be into the days getting longer and not shorter.
So this is more about daylight length than temperature or soil temperature?
Absolutely. Your temperature is gonna vary year to year. How cold it gets every year is going to be different. And you can mitigate that with the low tunnel covers inside. But that day length is something that's going to be the same every year. You just got to manage that. What you plant in here in November is going to be completely different than what you can plant in here in February. Don't plant carrots in November. You won't get a carrot, and what you get in the spring will bolt.
Mhm.
It'll grow so slow and then it'll bolt. Over here in February, further towards the south, and I'm pointing that way like that's the south, that's the north. Over here in February, after the spring equinox, you can actually go in there and plant carrots, and they will just slowly grow, and you'll have nice early carrots. So when you empty that row out over there, think about putting in spring carrots. I will be putting in spring carrots this year. So that's how that goes. Again, except the fact that if it gets too cold, you may lose something.
Did you want to talk about what else you pull out in August?
We do have a lot of other rows in here, but not everybody's going to have that much space. The big money makers are the tomatoes and the carrots. Okay, tomatoes in summer, carrots in winter. They carry weight. You sell them by the pound. It's the best thing you can grow, and if you can fit other things in around there, go for it. Variety helps. You're not making much money on kale.
What else can you grow?
You can grow a lot of other things. So over on this side of my greenhouse, I have Swiss chard. I have kale. I have rutabagas that are like this big. I have winter radishes, about 4 different kinds. One's the Dacon that'll get like this big, some purples, some watermelon radishes. They sell nice at a winter farmer's market. I have celery. I don't do a ton of celery because that can freeze back, but I do have celery. It's really delicious once it's been frosted a little bit. We have herbs, sage. We have thyme. We have parsley. We have rosemary, but that's gone now. We have fennel. We plant fennel on July 1st. You can write that one down. Either July 1st or somewhere after June 21st. We have, I seed fennel at that time of year, and then I harvest it for Thanksgiving. So my fennels get nice and big. They're in the greenhouse, stay here until Thanksgiving and Christmas, and then we sell all the fennels. What am I missing? Yeah,
Parsley.
well, I got the
Parsley,
herbs.
Yeah.
I got the herbs, and the spinach is over there. So those are the basic things. Not saying you can't grow more. You probably can. I do grow some of those green things, but honestly, I don't want to grow arugula. I grow arugula. I prefer not to grow arugula, but I do. And it is the kind of thing that I put in and then I have to take out again. So that's a thing. Then you can go about, as you get this stuff done in here, you can go about your outdoor fields because you're going to need to get that done too. Our fall impact crops are potatoes, beets, carrots, dry beans, onions, garlic, grains. We are starting to get into grains. So we do a polenta corn, sunflowers, and other grains like buckwheat, popcorn, teff, kernza are all on our list of things to try to do to, again, in that January to March timeframe when there's not a lot to sell because everything's growing so slowly, we will start to pull in those dry crops that we grew in the summertime, harvested, got processed, and then finally after the New Year's, when all of the big stuff from in here is gone, then we start to sell those things. We will have carrots here. I'm not going to doubt that we're going to have carrots here till the end of February. We'll replant right away, just like I said, so we'll have some greens coming. The kale will last all season in smaller and smaller and smaller amounts because it's like a big storage refrigerator over here. You start taking the big leaves off and it grows smaller leaves, but there's less and less of that as the daylight gets shorter and shorter. They start to speed up. The minute they start to speed up, those kale plants will also bolt. This doesn't mean you can't use the leaves. You continue using the leaves, continue selling your kale, keep them as healthy as you can, and continue selling your kale. Swiss chard does the same exact thing. The radishes, once they're picked out of the ground, they're gone. You will have space, but they're nice and big and you can pull a little bit of money in from radish. There are a ton of men out there and women who love radishes and we have found them. And it's a good crop for us.
The tops too.
And some of the greens are good. So same with beets, the greens are good. Same with radishes, the radish tops are good. Turnip tops, not so much. I'm sorry, rutabaga tops, not so much. But that's where we are. I lost my notes. Cool. Take my face. Okay.
Oh, while you're checking back into your notes, there were a couple questions in the chat if you want to pause and answer them and then keep going. Okay. First, Karen asked, do you have advice for urban farmers who have limited acreage? Is it worth buying a small greenhouse to put in their yard, or should they consider renting land somewhere else?
I actually think I can answer that question because I have less than a quarter of an acre and I'm in the center of Burlington. And I have taken the techniques that Michelle uses here. And I have simply used my raised beds that are 3x5 and tapped in rebar and then plastic pipe conduit and then a heavy greenhouse plastic. And I grew spinach, kale, and Swiss chard in it unheated. So I don't think there is plenty of money and yield in the spinach. I think all winter I was pulling out a few pounds a week, but then when March hit, I was pulling out like 7 pounds out of the little 3x5 bag.
So you ask if it's worth it, and I would say, where do you want to get your food? If you can at all, do some winter protected growing. It does not necessarily have to be huge. You could feed yourself and a couple other families with just some low tunnels. And then you know what you're eating and you know what your families are eating. And honestly, in this day and age, I would put your food over grocery store food anytime I could. Yeah, it's not going to be everything. You're not going to be growing everything in there, but you can certainly grow a lot to feed yourself and avoid another cost.
So back to the question about whether it's worth it to purchase a tunnel or small tunnel.
So the purchasing part, you don't have to purchase a tunnel. I think if you want to grow some things, so tomatoes in a tunnel in the summertime are super healthy. And it's easy to control the water then so that rain doesn't, sap away all of your flavor. There's reasons to do a tunnel in the summer and then to also do it in the wintertime. again, if you can do something that fits your space and allows you some flexibility, then you can follow your dream even in an urban setting. And I would always encourage somebody to do that. Do you want to spend a lot of money? I don't know. I don't know you.
Try
I don't know
something small.
what your things are, but I would suggest trying something. Even if it's a homemade tunnel made with rebar and conduit, or made with cattle panels. Just think through getting in and getting out, think through watering, think through what you think you're going to need and what you want to grow in there. Your best soil, cover your best soil. That's my opinion.
Did
Yes.
that answer the question?
It looks like it did.
Thank you.
So my successful winter crops.
Was there another question, Christine?
No, keep going. I'm holding
My
these. We got
success-
time. Yeah.
Okay, my successful winter crops are, as we said, carrots. They're spinach in a low tunnel. They are storage crops that we grow outside, harvest, and then store. So that's potatoes, onions, garlic. They are kale. There's Swiss chard. There's winter radishes, rutabagas, leeks, celery. We're going to try beets one more time, but they honestly don't want to size up in here. And then we do those greens that the quick growing and moving to the arugula. We have a brassica mix that we grow here. People seem to love them, even though I don't, they do. So we sell a lot of that stuff. Price things according to what you have in it. Doing this is not necessarily the cheapest way to do this, but add your labor up and make sure you price winter according to its quality, according to the amount of time you have in it. People are willing to pay you to get that kind of quality food. That's what I have found. And when you're the only one in a market, and honestly, in general, if you're in a market, unless you're in Madison, you may very well be the only one at the market with anything green that just came fresh out of the earth. So that's the winter stuff. You need little or no heat for any of those things unless we get a really bad, really cold, really dark winter, okay? And then you may lose something or tip something back. You may burn them on the outside edges. That's not to say it'll kill the whole plant and it will regrow, but you may lose crops on your table when you want them on your table. In spring, that's my difficult part. That's the part where I have to then keep this clear again. I have to get this clear again so that I can plant my tomatoes right back here. So these carrots come out, something green goes in to keep roots in the ground, then whatever that green thing is going to need to come out. If it's not ready to come out, it's still coming out. Morgan laments when I take a really good crop out. We'll cut it back as much as we can, sell what we can, and then it comes out because tomatoes need to go in. Only time I have ever changed that is if I have a row of spinach in here and it's beautiful. I will plant my tomatoes right inside the spinach because the spinach is not taking much out of the ground. And then we'll harvest spinach from around the tomatoes. Honestly, I don't think it was worth it to do it that way, but I felt better because I didn't have to tear out some really beautiful spinach. So that was the only time I changed that. Because I have that other side over there, which is not going to get tomatoes, I have a little more flexibility. Depends on your size, how much flexibility you can have. The important part is tomatoes need to come out in order to get carrots in, and everything else needs to come out in order to get tomatoes in. The outside stuff will come on time as always. You don't need to worry about that. You need to get to it on time outside. I'm only talking about the inside stuff. You can fill in your spring schedule with what's outside if you got to the outside on time. If nature lets you get to outside on time is what I should say. I have a couple tips for you that are free. I already told you about using that north side first, just to make sure that it is harvested before it loses the war of cold and sunlight. But I have found it necessary or at least advantageous to take out the oldest row of spinach early, a little early. It's still producing, but it's starting to change the shape of the leaf, starting to get a little raggedy. It's growing faster. Take it out early and maybe put another spinach row in so that like in February, if you take one out, put one in, then once May comes, when everybody else is really having a hard time, you're going to have a fresh new row of spinach for May. which may be before your markets start. It may be right when your markets start. So that's a useful thing to think about. Try not to hold on to every older plant. If you can give yourself the time that it's going to take to get a new seeding bed up and going, it's better to have the fresh spinach or the fresh chard when you need it, when the markets start either in May or June for you. Grow a small tomato crop at the normal time somewhere else. Get 25 plants planted on June 1st or May 25th in another tunnel or outside, so that once you take these out in August, you don't feel like you're tomato-less. It's hard to lose tomatoes in August. We sold so many so fast from our little boxes that were inside, and they ripened right away. So we were without tomatoes pretty early. But I don't know if you can see back there, there's a couple tomato plants still sitting in my basil row, and that keeps us from being tomato-less. However, if I'd have planted some big beefsteaks somewhere else, we would have been harvesting beefsteaks right on through to October, like everybody else, even if it's just for us. Again, I'm going to talk about the other easily stored outdoor crops to fill in your tables in February and March and April. So having the grains harvested in the middle of fall and being able to pull those out onto a table. We do Jimmy red corn. In the middle of January, I take it down to Illinois and have Andy Hazard mill that for me. And that makes a beautiful, beautiful product on my table in the middle of winter time. It actually makes 3 beautiful things because she was able to mill corn flour, corn polenta, and corn starch out of our corn. So I'm hoping that my corn this year is going to do the same thing. I am not positive of that yet, but for right now, we do have a crop of corn waiting. I also do dry beans. Dry beans gives me the advantage of coming to maturity and needing to be harvested after everything else. So we have everything out of our fields almost completely except for the dry beans and some sunflowers. And so now that everything else is mostly done, I can go look at the dry beans, get them in to bags, let them sit until January. When we need something else on our table, then we will go through and thresh those beans, and we will have beans for our table in February, March, and April again.
Winter squash.
We do winter squash, but we never have much success with winter squash. If you have success with winter squash, store those and sell them on your table all winter long. My winter squash abilities are very limited. Winter squash is there though. Sweet potatoes are there if you can do them. Potatoes are there. The onions are there. Garlic is there. Those are the things that you can have. They're harvested. All you have to do is box them and take them to market. One of the other ones, which is beautiful and I love to do, but are hard to do, is parsnips. I love parsnips. Parsnips are great. Parsnips are a pain in the ass. But parsnips are really good. Seeding parsnips, I'll give you some tricks on parsnips if you don't mind. I do have some tool people. I do have the 6-row seeder. I do have diamond hoes. I do have a tiller. I do have
Broad fork.
a broad fork, and I do have a Tillmore cultivating tractor that we bought 4 years ago. That Tillmore allows me to do some things that you may not be able to do, but you can do it if you use one of those hoes and you plant your parsnips in a straight row. So I've tried lots of things to mark the rows for parsnips. Parsnips don't come up for like 25 days. And weeds come up much faster than 25 days. So because of the parsnips coming up so slowly, I generally plant them with my seeder on my Tillmore, and then I cultivate them immediately, and then I cultivate them and I cultivate them so I can see where my seeds should come up. Okay, you can do that with a hoe if you know where you planted them, but mark where you planted them. I tried planting the radishes to mark them, and it didn't work. You pull the radishes out, and you're pulling out the baby tiny parsnips. So I have not had success with that. I have had success with doing it this way and hoeing on both sides of where they're supposed to come up, and then just checking in amongst those weeds in that row to try to find the baby parsnip. Once you find the baby parsnip, then you go ahead and you weed the entire row because you're gonna have to look through the weeds to find the baby parsnip. They're very chartreuse green, and they look a lot like a tomato seedling, but they're very, or a spinach seedling even. The cotyledons are, they just seem to stand out to me, but no one else really notices them. I have a video somewhere on Facebook, shows me finding my parsnip seedling last year. This year I didn't get them in. Another thing, you always have to have fresh seed for parsnips. So I do buy the pelleted seed. And I would, if I didn't have that Tillmore, I would use my 6-point seeder and put them in on the two outer containers in the 6-point seeder. So they had almost a foot between them. And I would plant that down the 100-foot row. I would use that 6-point seeder to do
When
it.
do they go in and when do they come out?
They come out as they go in spring. They go in spring, early as you can get them in, but they just don't come up fast. Finding them once they come up is the problem. So once they come up, get them clean from weeds, and then weed them and weed them and weed them, and they will make a beautiful big parsnip. I don't remember the variety I used that I did like. I believe it came from Territorial, though. I could get that for anybody who's interested.
We dug some of those out in January, February.
We dig them out in the wintertime. So that's the other thing, why it's a winter crop. Thank you, Morgan. We leave them in the ground. I just weed them and then I cultivate them once they're big enough with the cultivator on the tractor. And don't even bother with them until we get to a thaw in the middle of wintertime. So we waited till it thawed good. Like we had lots of hard, cold freezes. And then you need a really good thaw. And we thought we could get out there and get them. And we stuck the shovel in and went, nope, that's still frozen. So then you couldn't get them out, but they stay there and they'll stay there until spring. You can go out in May and pick them and they'll still be good. They'll be fine. They'll be nice and sweet. They get sweeter and sweeter and sweeter the longer they're in the soil. What happens to parsnips is what's happening to the carrots in here. They're just getting sweeter and sweeter in the cold that they're going to get. Now, I didn't tell you is the heat. We keep it at 20 degrees in here at night. We allow it to get down to 20 before we even ever think about turning on heat. Okay? I want it cold in here. There's nothing in here that will be hurt by 20 degrees. Nothing that I told you that I grow will be hurt by 20 degrees, especially for the short amount of time in the nighttime that they are 20 degrees. In the morning, it comes up. If it gets to going below 20, then I want my heat to kick in. So that's how I keep my heat bill low, keep plants healthy, and allow them to sweeten and do the winter thing. That's why you get the better flavor, the better texture, the better growth on them is that cold. Okay. I don't know how I missed that in the whole thing, but I missed that. That's how I keep them hopefully no lower than 20 degrees at night. All right. That is my spiel.
I think you actually have more time.
Well,
Does anybody
can I-
have questions I can answer now?
Yeah, Michelle, I have a few questions, and then if we can see if the crowd gets inspired to ask more. So, two of these questions are pretty similar. They're wondering, are we too late to start winter growing for this
Not
year?
necessarily.
Or is there anything that I could start now to overwinter in unheated
Yes.
low tunnels?
Yes. So you can still plant spinach. You can still plant radishes. You're going to want to get your radishes out before it gets too late. But you can still plant them now. Short season things. So things that will, arugula, that brassica mix just went in the other day. All that kind of stuff is, you want to do the things that grow really quickly right now. Spinach is perfect. I still plant spinach until the beginning of October. We are not quite there yet. So spinach certainly could go in right now. I would not plant carrots right now. I would wait until February to plant carrot. What else? Kale could, you could get baby kale and baby chard if you started planting them now. The winter radishes need to have more time than this. The rutabagas need more time than this.
Could they get
Those things go in July for me. We start transplants for them in July. Get them out as quickly as I can into the greenhouse and then let them size up. I want as many good leaves on them as I can get before it starts to lower my day length. Does that answer your questions?
I think that's a great start. Do you put garlic in the greenhouse?
I have put garlic in the greenhouse. I don't find it necessary. I can grow many other things. And garlic doesn't need me.
Another
Can I-
question, oh, go ahead, Morgan.
I was just gonna say, can we back up to the what you can start growing right now? If you had an area that had maybe kale you planted a couple of months ago, could you cover that and
Yes,
overwinter it? Could you try and overwinter something existing?
Yes,
Okay, all right.
yes. Now,
So-
if you have an entire year's, I still have kale from spring in here. And I'll continue harvesting off of it as long as I can, because it's kale and it's full grown. How long that'll last, I think that'll probably go right until next year, honestly, before it starts bolting, because it's a biennial and it needs those days to start going up again, that day length to start going up again. So yes, absolutely.
Question about temperature sensitivity was what temperatures are too cold when you start to lose spring carrots or other things that are generally more tolerant?
So on the carrots, if you're in an unheated tunnel with carrots, if you can give them that inner cover, you're going to be able to go down to probably 15 before you're going to have a problem. The other thing to think about with carrots is if your carrots are all the way underground, once carrots start to size up, oftentimes they hit the subsoil a little bit and they start to push out of the ground and their tops are uncovered. They're above ground. If the tops are above ground and you hit those cold temperatures, you could freeze the tops. If they're underground, it depends on your scale. I have run around with buckets of compost filling up around my carrots to make sure that they're covered over a little bit on the roots, just to make sure that that didn't happen. But honestly, if you're worried about it, that would be when I would start to fork them out of the ground and get them safe in the refrigerator. I wash them, refrigerate them in boxes, take them out one box at a time and sell them at market.
So to recap, generally in here 20, so
20
long as they're
in
not
here.
erupting, and you could get nervous at 15.
Damage starts, you can go deeper than that. I just don't want to risk it with carrots because that's a big money maker for me. So I don't know how much you're selling carrots for. I'm selling these winter carrots at $5 a pound, and have been for 10 years. Not even kidding. And people pay that for carrots because they're that good. When I say this is a money maker for me, that's another reason why. There's weight here, there's cash here. I hand out the little ones to children as they pass by, and their parents come back in 5 minutes and say, hey, we need a pound of those carrots. I don't need them buying 20 pounds. I don't have to get rid of them that fast. I need them buying 1 pound. That's fine. The kids eat them, they come back, they buy 2 pounds.
But you don't ever risk this.
I wouldn't risk my carrots if I had a worry. I would pull them out. I would take the time it took to pull them out, wash them, and get them in the refrigerator.
But nervous Nelly at anything below 20, maybe? Is it general?
If they had an inner cover, I would go down to 15.
All right, here we go. Sold.
Anything else?
Yes. How does mismatched windows or corrugated plastic greenhouses compare to plastic or tarped greenhouses in your experience?
So I have not used a corrugated. That's a single. This kind of plastic. I have not had that, but I can't imagine that would be worse than one single layer of plastic. I honestly can't, especially if you have taken that time to put that little filler strip in on the corrugated part so wind's not whipping through it. I can't imagine that would be any different than a layer of greenhouse plastic. So the corrugated, I'm thinking fine. My husband's going to put it at the end of that greenhouse that we have to replace. Air inflation, 2 layers with air inflation is warmer.
Can you
But it's
explain
only-
that? Can you explain that before you go forward?
Plastic up here, and there's an inflation fan that keeps air between the 2 layers. That insulates nicely. Again, it only can do what it can do. You are still sitting here in the middle of winter with snow built up on the sides in something that's made out of plastic. It's not 2x4 construction with insulation in it. It's plastic, and the heat comes in and goes out. when the sun goes down, you can feel it cool in here. Sun comes up, you can feel it heat in here. It's literally immediate that the temperature change outside hits inside. The sun is our storage system. We get it. It goes away and our heat is gone. It's just that simple. Very little storage can happen here. The ground is a heat store for you. So if you have nice dark soil, it can gather heat and store it. It's also a reason why we do water as much as we water, just to keep the soil as dark as possible to absorb as much sun as it can, to heat sink a little bit.
To recap, the difference between a corrugated and a plastic, you don't think there's much
That's any
more
different.
difference?
I would be able to do both of those. I would not want to use a tarp because no sun's coming in.
So in my small 8x10 glass greenhouse on my little farm, I did do winter growing in there last year, and I did it. I wanted to see what could thrive in neglect, and kind of, what can I put in and what's going to make it in here, because I don't have any insulation in there and I don't have a heat source. Everything I put in lettuce and spinach and kale and Swiss chard and arugula, and even put in some carrots. I watered only a couple of times. And by February or by January, most of the stuff was still alive. And then I started covering it because the temperature was dropping. But then I uncovered periodically through the day. I mean, if you can get the light in there and you have some way to temporarily cover if you're worried about the temperature.
The biggest thing is to protect the plants from wind and rain and snow and hail. If you can protect them and give them something see-through that the sun can come in, whatever amount that is, you're going to get growth and you're going to get a plant that survives and then will grow as it can. The point I'm saying is if you can get it going bigger earlier, and you have more to harvest as it gets cold. If you plant late like now and try to harvest big, you're not going to get to do that, because the plant at this point in time, with the day length shortening, the amount of growth that a little plant can put on is just getting smaller and smaller and smaller. How much they can actually photosynthesize and do what they need to do, even if the temps are good, it's just going down and down and down. Nice warmer temps gives you a little bit longer. But that sun is really the generator of photosynthesis and how much that plant can grow. Any more questions?
Do you have pest issues in the greenhouse? And if yes, how do you deal with them?
Most in the summer. In the winter, there's few. I'm gonna say few. The tarnished plant bug is one that can affect spinach, because the tarnished plant bug goes right into the center of the spinach, and as those brand new little leaves start to unfurl, they eat those little tiny leaves, and then when the leaf unfurls the rest of the way, they have holes in them. Tarnished plant bug is one that will last all winter. Slugs will be there all winter. Worms can actually come up and eat leaves, especially spinach. They don't mind spinach leaves. They will come up and chew on leaves. Most are gone or
Mice.
hibernating.
Mice. We get mice on carrots.
Mice will do damage to the tops of carrots again, but you have to be able to get to the top of the carrots. Voles are a thing. I don't have much of that in here. I have more problem with chipmunks. Rabbits, if they can get into your tunnel, will decimate your spinach all winter long. Now, if you have a rabbit coming in or a whole family of rabbits coming in, you can cover with the low tunnels, and they'll usually leave you alone. They don't like
Cover cloth?
with a row covers. Yeah, that's row cover. They will usually not like being on it, and they're not brave enough to get under it. A chipmunk or a mouse will go right under it and start eating. So you do what you can do. Yes, there are problems. They're not nearly as many as summertime.
Thank you. I'm gonna try to ask this question, and I'm making an assumption by
Right.
adding in a little bit more detail. So maybe Susan, you can come off mute. But Susan asked if you could buy a new high tunnel, what would it look like? So maybe a retrospective to
Thanks,
what you
Susan.
currently have.
Yeah, I would not buy a gutter connected tunnel.
Japanese.
Oh, if I could do, okay, so pie in the sky, I'm gonna give you pie in the sky and then reality, okay? High in the sky is a Chinese greenhouse that has an insulated back wall. Sits in the soil. I have a nice hill. It's perfect for it over here. It sits in the soil, and then the front is on the right angle, and it has an insulating blanket inside that rolls down at night and rolls back up in the morning. Oh, you don't even need heat for that, and it stays at a decent temperature. That would be my pie in the sky. It's
Where is
got
the closest
envelopes.
one?
It's got some envelopes. I mean, you got to go all the way up to Canada to find anything of size that's like that. Otherwise, you go to China. China has built them everywhere. It's quite old technology that we just have not adopted here yet. I'd love to do it. I'm not young enough to do it anymore.
Why?
I would love to do it because I don't have to heat.
So is it the sun that does the heating, or the ground that does the heating, or the combination of
It's the sun hitting at the right angle and the insulation of the building. So it's insulated on both ends and the back, and it has a roll down piece of insulation. So it's actually a tunnel inside a tunnel with insulation in between the two tunnels, if you get my drift. It's a piece of engineering. And if I had it as a millionaire, I'd have 200 foot of it right here. I am not. So in the meantime, I would just go with a single Gothic shaped structure from any of the major manufacturers. Should have a peak at the top.
Why?
Because snow will come off better. It can be as high as you need it if you want to trellis greenhouses. Like we have a 6-foot wall, sidewalls. I don't think they need it to be 6 foot high because we can't even reach our trellises. But our tomatoes go all the way up there, so I suppose it's good. But a 4-foot high sidewall, something that can be rolled up and down. I really like the bifold doors like this one. It's like a scissor door.
I'm going to turn the camera. Bear with me.
Doors are a big thing. This has this, see this door?
I gotta
room in there?
rake in there.
So this door is awesome, has weights on it, so it goes up and down, but it seals up completely. Bottom seals, top seals, the whole thing seals, so there's no air leakage in this door. The biggest problem with it is you have to be inside to open this door. So that's a problem. The butterfly vents up on top. Best solution to venting. Try not to get those little tiny louvers made out of aluminum. As big as you can manage, because you're gonna always want more space. But I like the Gothic shape. I would do 2 layers of plastic and an inflation fan. Those inflation fans take very little energy, and they give you a lot for what they do. What more can I say? You do need a walk-through door for people. If you do these bifold doors, you need a walk-through door. I don't have a walk-through door. I just have big doors. How you get in and out in wintertime makes a difference. You can't get in so this thing is gonna heat up in the daytime to 55, 60 degrees. That will melt the snow on the outside of this tunnel and make it turn into ice. Get my drift? So now you have a snowbank that's 6 feet tall, and next to your tunnel, it's ice. So you can shovel through the snow. That's easy. But now you got to break through the ice. And if you have a swinging door that swings outside, it's hard to get in. You got to pick and hammer your way into your own greenhouse in the middle of winter. And that's not fun. So I looked long and hard before I got these doors. Those 2 doors over there, I couldn't get 4 bifolds, or I would have, and then I'd been locked out because you can't get in from the outside. You have to only open them from the inside. But we have sliding doors. I put the sliding doors on the inside of the greenhouse. They have less of a chance of hitting ice. If you try to unslide sliding doors, they're going to hit ice and snow because it's just what happens. So having a human scale door that's maybe up off the ground a little bit that you can push open to the inside so that you're not hitting snow. Snow is important.
So with something this tall, I'm sorry, I just want to, because we talk about the heat in here, and when you're trying to heat this space, you're heating all of this upper space. And we kind of had some realizations last winter about heating all of the air in this building versus heating just over the veg itself.
I've tried many, many, many different heating sources. I had propane. Oh my gosh, expensive. I had 2 fills before I said can't do that anymore. We went to the wood boiler when we got this double gutter connected greenhouse. We went to a wood boiler. That is not for me. It could be for you if you're young and vigorous. I'm 63. I'm still doing that. I don't want to do it this year. This year, I'm getting gas heaters installed in here again. They're going to be low. They're going to be low to the ground, not up at the top. They're going to be low. But they're also going to be powerful enough to heat this greenhouse up to 60 or 70 degrees so that if it snows, I can melt the snow off the top. So that's me. We also had a boiler system where we didn't heat the air, but we heated water on the ground through PEX tubing. And that was what I considered most efficient way to use that boiler, is it just heated water in one loop of tubing that went around this whole greenhouse. And then we covered up all these beds with the roll cover. And that heat stayed down low and kept us where we needed to be on the ground. And we have used lots of little thermometers underneath the roll cover so I know where I am. So when it's this temperature outside and the water's heating, what is the temperature inside? So just checking ourselves out. Can you see the little?
I think
white
you can
pieces
see the
on ground?
pipes right down here.
This will be coming out this year unless I happen to find a boiler. I would like to keep this just because I think it's less expensive than using air heat. But the air that we are going to pump in here will be low to the ground, and hopefully I can shove it underneath roll cover somehow. So we'll see how that goes. Any more
Amazing.
questions I can help with?
I would love to invite anyone on the call to come off mute and ask a question, or again, use the chat, but we've run through the questions so far.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, I did want to just remind folks that this conversation will be continued in person on October 9th. And Michelle and Morgan are going to serve us a farm lunch, which is amazing. So if you feel like contributing any potluck snacks, bring them along. I'll drop that registration link in the chat. We do ask that you register just so we know how much to prepare for you joining. I did have one question for you both ladies about labor and how that informs your decisions to maybe reduce the number of crops that you grow or expand. I know you have volunteers, but how many people work on the farm right now?
So right now I am Michelle's only full-time employee. We do have Gerald who works with us part-time, but he's here 5 days a week, 5-6 hours a day. The rest of the labor here on the farm is volunteer. Michelle opens it up. People come and work a 3-hour shift and are paid in produce from the farm. In the winter, things do slow down, so our volunteers generally step back, and they're always free to come. There's always weeding to be done. There's always seeding and cleaning and repair things, but labor wise, our labor force doesn't really change in the winter.
No, labor's the winter actually lightens our labor load a good deal. And if our volunteers want to come again, there is always something for them to do, including, bagging up polenta and threshing those beans and then bagging the beans and, going through them and cleaning them out and making sure everything's good for sale. So we do get a couple days a week, probably 3 days a week, where we have one or more volunteers. And that really does lighten our load. You wouldn't think 3 hours a week would make a big difference to a farm, but 3 hours a week of dedicated labor when they want to be here. I honestly, some of our volunteers have been here for years. I think Laura Sutton's been here for 6 or 7 years, and she just keeps coming back and loves doing it and learning. So we teach you as you come. It's a big thing with me and Morgan, is you need to learn why we're doing a thing. I don't just tell you to do a thing. I tell you why. And if I see something cool, I say, hey, look at this. And this is why we're doing this, because see, this is happening. And that just informs the volunteer and anybody else who wants to know, honestly. Yeah. I just keep telling people,
the day is definitely shorter, but we have things like the store that have to be stocked and filled. And because we're harvesting every day, there's always something to do. We go into modes where we'll do classes, lessons, try and do a little, a few more events here on the farm in the winter, and our volunteers take place in that, but no real change to our labor. I mean, still a wonderful 4-hour day. I don't know how.
So I'm kind of old. Morgan's following me up, and I don't mind a 4 or 5 hour day.
No.
It's a great thing to be a farmer and to be able to successfully do what we do in 4 or 5 hours a day is awesome. I have Oscar here. I value that time that I get to spend with him on farm, but also after we're done working. So we have been able to, or been fortunate enough to be able to survive on a little bit of a less labor. And I don't know how some young farmers are doing it
Yeah.
on 10, 12 hours a day, which is another reason we wanted to keep today short so they could get back to what they were doing.
I think the longer you do it, the better you get. And honestly, I think that's one of the wonderful things about, I didn't farm before I came to Michelle in 2020. So I'm really very new to farming, but she has so much knowledge that she's gained by learning and doing things wrong and discovering and reading, that I got the benefit of not having to relearn a lot of her mistakes. Not saying I still don't make some of those mistakes. I mean, there are just things I want to try on my own, but because I think you're a little bit more of a well-oiled machine about how you do things, how things kind of need to be done. There's room for creativity, but it just works really well because you have the knowledge. So having somebody to share a lot of this with you and let you know what mistakes you don't have to make, it helps.
And that's the reason, one reason we're doing this.
Yeah.
And with the knowledge that all these people that are listening, I'm giving you permission to call me.
Yeah.
My information should be somewhere on here. My phone number is right. That's the one that's videotaping me right now. But you can call me anytime and say, hey, I got this. I got this. I got this. And I'll look at you and I'll go, okay, wait a minute. What? And then I'll say, this is what you got to do, or this, don't do that. So I've learned over the years, but some really big not to do's, and some, hey, this is a helpful tip. So those kind of things help. You're going to get it if you do this for a long time, but you have to make the mistakes. If I can help you not make a mistake, I prefer to do that way.
Yeah. A little less painful.
Did we go mute
Amazing.
again?
I put your contact in the chat, and I
Awesome.
did just let some folks know that you are both so generous with your time and knowledge. And I know you've said it before, but you always welcome people to visit the farm, and your farm stand is open 7 days a week.
24 hours a day, 7
24
days
hours
a week.
a day. Yeah.
God.
There should be no limits to accessing food, I think.
We did not get a chance to talk much about soil here, but that's a thing I would be glad to talk about at some point too, if anybody has questions off this.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Besides feeding people, growing growers is something that's part of our business plan, because there is such a need for people to start venturing into growers. We can't feed everybody. One farmer can't do it. We want to share every bit of knowledge that we've got here, and we're gonna keep growing growers and educating eaters. So
Well,
Because
thank you.
you're-
Oh,
that's your good man.
yeah. Thank you so much. You both are incredible. The greenhouse looks beautiful right now. I can't wait to see it in person in a few weeks. So we have a few more minutes. We'll hang out, but everyone that's on the call, thank you so much for being here. You can stay updated with other urban ag events that are going to be happening throughout the fall at our website. And please join us on October 9th.
Come on out. We're a fun group.
Really amazing.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
guaranteed to be amazing.
Yeah.
I might even pick some carrots,
Oh, early carrots.
baby carrots.
Baby carrots.
Early carrots. Thank you.
You're welcome.